Hello and welcome back to the Human AF podcast. I am your co-host, Steph Laffy.
And I am your other co-host, Steph Taylor.
And we're a little bit goofy because we're recording at night. Normally we record in the morning, but
That's fine. That's fine. We are all good. Welcome to this episode. I think this is going to be a really cool episode. We were kind of discussing beforehand what we wanted to talk about,
mhm,
and we sort of came up with the idea of we're nearing the end of the foundations,
mhm,
and we were both thinking and talking about how much we have changed and how much growth we have seen and what shifts we've seen in our own lives since we started recording this podcast, which was 3 months ago. That's it.
crazy.
So we kind of wanted to do like a little recap, I guess, of how much this podcast has changed our lives and kind of hear from you guys too, how much
Right.
it's impacted your lives.
Yeah. And I mean, based on just the comments we've been getting and like just the reaction to it, I feel like we're definitely making people think. And we're definitely opening up people's minds, which is super cool. Even if it's just planting the seed for like a different way of viewing things and different like perspectives, I think that's so cool. So, um, this podcast has changed my life, not just recording it, but also every time I like listen back to make the clips, and like write up the show notes, I'm like, this is the conversation that I actually needed today, not just when we
Ah,
recorded it, but like it's
yes.
like reinforces all the things that we talked about. And I'm like, wait, this is the lesson that I actually needed right now.
Yeah. And I've been getting like, when we've been recording the podcast in the morning, it's become such a morning routine for me
Yeah.
where, okay, I wake up, I hop on Zoom, we record the episode, then I go get breakfast. Like
Hmm.
it's my first step out of bed, get breakfast, eat it out on the deck, and integrate. And like my brain just goes over what we just discussed. And
Hmm.
often I'm crying. Often
Right.
I'm honestly crying because there's some shift that ends up happening as a result of that conversation because of the background of what's happening in my life. And then, as you said, weeks later, when the podcast is set to air and we're prepping all the clips and the social media and we're uploading the episodes and everything, and you're listening to it again, it is a whole new level of gold nuggets that you are finding
Right.
in there and integrating into your awareness. Exactly what you need in the exact moment that you need. Let's bring on the cliches already.
It's crazy. It's so crazy because like part of why I like podcasting so much, part of why it's like just like something I thought might be fun for me is because I was just telling you earlier, I've been listening to podcasts for the last 10 years. Not to brag. Uh, but I I love them because it just so many golden nuggets are dropped, so many like amazing things come out, and like the fact that these golden nuggets are now coming out of our mouths, it's pretty
Yeah.
mind-blowing. Like it's so wild because if you think about it, like the reason that we decided to start a podcast in the first place was because we were having these mind-blowing conversations with each other all the time. And so we were just like, this could definitely benefit somebody if we actually turn this into like a formal like thing.
Yeah.
Um, Even if one other person like could benefit from hearing our conversations, like how cool would that be? Like that just expands, that just creates a ripple effect from something that we're already doing, from conversations that we're already having.
Yeah.
And like even before we started creating a podcast and recording like something to put out into the world, like our conversations had that impact on me where I was thinking about it and then coming back to you later excited, like, oh, you're never gonna believe what just came out for me, like, holy shit. Like, it just really speaks to the power of having conversation and just putting words to like what we're feeling and what we're experiencing and what we're going through in our lives and what we're observing. And it just like having the space to talk things through has been such an incredible experience. And then having the space to then go back and re-listen to these conversations, which is something we didn't have in the past. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. The space to witness yourself and do that sort of talk therapy without judgment. And there's no time frame on it either. You can go
Mhm.
back and listen to these episodes as we have done as many times as you need. It's like a good book where you
Right,
can just come back and choose whichever one, because it's not like there's so many of the foundations, but
right,
you can go back and listen to them and get whatever other gold nugget from that you then need in this moment. And
right.
what's that, the spiral thing? I've had it referenced to me so many times, and I even think I talked about it, but where you feel like you're meeting the same lesson over and over, like the same
I
situation,
know
maybe
exactly what you're talking
same,
about.
yeah, like you're meeting it with the same person or whatever, and you're like, I just can't figure it out. I had,
Like circling the drain.
yeah, like circling the drain, except you feel like you're circling the drain and you're just getting sucked lower and lower and lower. But in actuality, you're actually spiraling upwards. So you're seeing the same view, but you're seeing it from a higher level, even though it doesn't always feel like that. You're coming back
Holy
around, but
shit.
you have an awareness. And so you're looking at it with just such a subtle shift where you're like, oh, I feel angry. And then the next time you're like, oh, I'm angry because of this. Oh, that person actually means this. I should be curious. Like you, but you're still like,
It's revealing something,
why?
yeah. It's revealing something new every time.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
revealing something new every time until you finally get what it is you've been resisting,
yeah.
learning, or releasing. And why am I bringing up friggin' releasing? Because that is the hardest thing that I've been going through.
Right.
Learning, I can do all the learning, but releasing, it's no. I
Oh my
need.
God. Yeah, well, because I feel like in my experience, and I'm curious if you feel the same way, but in my experience, I will have to like I have to go through the same lesson over and over and over and over until suddenly something shifts and like I do something about it. Like right now, my current lesson, like I know that this is the year finally that I learned to be more punctual and more on time because things about my timeliness and my punctuality and my ability to like show up when I'm meant to show up keep coming up.
Mhm.
And that tells me that I'm circling the drain right now and things I'm learning things, I'm shifting things, I'm making changes, I'm having breakthroughs because my relationship with time and more specifically showing up on time and being on time is about to change. Like that all the writing is on the wall. It's coming, it's happening whether I like it or not. Um and this always happens for me when I'm on the cusp of like making that shift.
Mhm.
I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
I'd love, I'd love to see how, well, I'd love to see, I will see how this works out for you in terms of the time, because
But this has been a
as
theme throughout the whole,
we
right?
talked about this. What was it,
It's
episode
because
6
I'm
we were
there. I'm
talking
so
about?
close.
Yeah. Um, how it actually ends up resolving for you. It'll be really neat to hear when it finally resolves, how it actually resolves, because so often we have this idea of what we want it to look like, what we feel it should look like, and
Mhm.
what actually ends up showing up for those things that we have such a struggle with. It's like it comes out of left field. And you're like,
Right,
oh,
right,
I didn't know I was going to get to that point. That's not the way I thought it would look, but it ends
right.
up being exactly what you need. And I've been going through something similar with
Mhm.
a situation in my life where I wanted it to look a certain way. I wanted the outcome to be a certain thing. And it couldn't be like that, but I tried everything to get it that way. And I put all um the pressure on myself that I was the one to make it that way when it takes
Mhm.
two to tango. Like, it's not just you in a situation, there's other people.
Right.
Um, and now I'm at a place through going through all of these episodes and the integration of boundaries, communicating, respect for yourself, time, values, all sorts of things coming back to protecting your own personal peace. And in finding that peace, in listening to my body of, okay, when it's this situation that I'm trying to force, that I'm trying to pressure, that I'm trying to create the outcome that I want, it
Mhm.
feels very tense and anxious. But when I go to this, which is completely out of left field, which doesn't give me the outcome that I thought I wanted, but it actually gives me the inner peace that I truly want, is like so radically
Right.
different. But I'm at a state
Yeah.
where I can accept that.
Right, because it wasn't really the outcome that mattered, it was the feeling.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't the picture perfect, checked all
Right,
the boxes, socially good type of
right,
outcome. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, there's a nugget right there.
right. Well, because I'm kind of thinking about like my example of time. It's like, is it really does showing up at 9 o'clock every day really fucking matter?
Mhm.
I don't know. Probably not. What am I actually chasing here? What is the actual thing that I'm looking for? Is it professionalism? Is it respect from my colleagues, my peers, my friends? Is it feeling of peace? I feel not rushed when I arrive at a place and like I'm able to just settle right in and waltz on into whatever I'm showing up to do. Like maybe that's what I'm seeking. And like my timeliness or my lack of lateness, I'm gonna go back and say timeliness. Uh, my my timeliness is the outcome, but does the outcome really matter, or is it more like the feeling and the benefit that come with it?
How you feel about yourself.
Yeah, and how I feel others feel about me.
Yeah, it's the whole self-worth. It's who are you as a person and what is your value?
Right.
You're using the social construct to construe value on yourself, which is kind of what I was doing.
Yeah.
The, I was personalizing what it looked like on the outside. So I thought I really wanted this situation to look this way, but it wasn't bringing me that personal peace and that value of myself. Same
My
thing.
brain is
It's
pretzeling again.
like, right? Whoa, this is okay. I'm realizing the way you said that, where we look at these social norms, these check boxes, and we think that it's us, that we want this certain value. But in
Right.
reality, does that actually light us up? Does that actually bring us peace? Does that actually seem to flow from us? And
Right.
why isn't it? where can we rewrite the story so it feels better? But also, are we putting value on the wrong thing? Are
I
we
was just thinking that.
yeah.
Like maybe so okay, so I'm kind of thinking I'm thinking along the same lines as you, but slightly different because I'm like, okay, well if I'm chasing I'm chasing the outcome of time, but it's not really the outcome that matters, right? I'm chasing the feeling and the self-worth, the approval of others, the just like all the things that come with being on time. Well, maybe I would being on time is very difficult for me. Like I'm trying, I'm really fucking trying. But I almost feel like I'm like white knuckling it, you know? Like it's not
Yeah.
something that comes naturally for me. And so I'm on the path. Am I on the path of highest resistance to get to that self-worth and to get to that approval? Like maybe this is not the right path to achieve those goals and to achieve those feelings. Maybe the timeliness comes when I don't try so damn hard to be on time. Like maybe it comes as sort of a byproduct of like taking a different approach.
Yeah, just like the gum chewing.
Yeah.
Release the
Like that
resist.
was by accident. Yeah.
Yeah. You release the resistance and you release the the white knuckling where you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, which you
Right.
know it just causes more negative tension.
Right.
So then it's almost like look beyond that, look sideways, look at something else.
Right.
And then it will naturally because that's what I've had to do for my situation too, where it's
Right.
I had to stop looking at what I thought was the problem. Forget about it. And
Yeah. It'll just happen.
it'll just naturally resolve itself in the most bizarre way, but in an easier way
Yeah.
versus the tension and chaos we create for ourselves. Oh God, my life.
Isn't this crazy? Like I feel like I'm just thinking the first I was early to work. I was early to work on Wednesday. Fucking crazy. And everybody was like, stop the world. Like Stephanie Laffey is walking in
Time
early.
zone were you on, Steph? What time zone were you on?
I was on EST. I was early for work. It was crazy. The reason I was early for work was it was not even on purpose. It was a beautiful day yesterday. So instead of taking the train, I just walked to work. I just walked the whole way. It was a 45-minute walk and it would have taken me 40 minutes by train. And
Wow.
I would have been or it would have taken me 40 minutes by train plus like all the potential issues I would have gotten distracted. I don't know. What the hell? Ah,
So
I'm
there's
back.
that, and you're getting a workout in. You're in outdoors. I mean,
I
it's
got
New
to
York
talk to
City.
my mom. Yeah. I got to talk to my mom on the way. I got to soak in the sun.
So you're
And
intentional, like way more intentional.
right, but I wasn't even thinking about being on time and then I was early.
Right? Okay, this is where you're not looking at the problem.
Right.
Instead, you're going completely sideways to something else completely different. And yet you're being intentional with your time and like marking things off your list that you're not even thinking are on your list. And then as a byproduct,
Right.
you're happier, you're on time, you're there. Whoa.
Right. So I was instead of worrying about being on time, which is not really my value, it's more like other people's values that I take on. I just focused on being intentional with my time,
Mm.
which is my value. Like I care about how I use my time. So by actually being intentional about how I use my time, I ended up being on time.
See? And we
That's
talked
fucking crazy.
I don't even remember which episode it was, but when we no, I think it was rewriting the story. where we talked about that, where you set the intention, like change what the time means to you. Oh,
This is me integrating.
oh,
Holy shit.
right? Oh, okay. I freaking love that.
That's
Freak,
wild. I didn't even realize this was happening.
right? I didn't even realize it was happening in my life too, but I've had
Yeah.
similar in a totally different way where I don't even know if I could summarize it in the episodes that we've talked about, but just like releasing the tension, releasing control, like trying to control other people's behavior and trying to
Uh-huh.
change yourself or say things a certain way to not have somebody explode or whatever it is, and just continue to understand what boundaries are and how it looks when people push them, and then how to remove yourself from a situation that you can't actually remove yourself from. Because my
Mm.
situation's fun.
Yeah.
But releasing that idea and
Right.
not letting the pressure all be on you to
Hmm.
change everything, like kind of like exactly what you did is focusing on the problem, which creates that white knuckle tension
Yeah.
and then creates more chaos. And I've
Hmm.
been called out the last week to
Hmm.
like week and a half of Steph, you're creating chaos. Steph, you're choosing chaos. Steph, like these
Right.
things wouldn't have happened unless you'd focused on them, which you are doing. You are creating your own chaos, but instead going sideways. And
Yeah.
oh, I'm tapping my chest. I'm like, I'm pointing into my heart, like going in and seeking that.
Right.
What do you do that brings joy in your life? How do you get up and like be that fuck yeah, like this is my life and I want to do amazing stuff, and if I am a badass, what am I doing today? Like what badassery can I get up to when you, oh Steph, 3 months, it's been 3 months of us doing this and so much has changed.
I'm scared for like a year.
I am not scared, I am pumped, I am
Oh, I mean, I am pumped. I am very pumped, but I'm also like, it's only been 3 months. It
so,
not even. Yeah, I guess.
yeah,
Well, sorry, my alarm's going off. I have an
yeah.
alarm that says "Get the fuck off social media." Okay.
You're not on, you're fine. But when we think of, it's been just over a year, almost a year and a half that we've known each other now,
No,
right?
it's been more than that, like 2 years.
Time flies.
It
Time,
really does. Time flies when you're having fun.
ah. So
Well,
we've changed so much in,
yeah, our first live actually. I love how we're just like in front of the audience. We're like, oh yeah. So our first live was May. I have a weirdly photographic memory. It's something I'm trying to like get rid of. Long story. It's really exhausting.
okay,
Um, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of like numbers from like 5 years ago, like freaking out, like not good.
okay,
Not
when
good for my health. But anyway, our first live was like May 1st, 2022.
as if, and it is May 2nd as we are recording this episode.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? I have to look at the exact date, but like I'm 97% sure.
And that's, yeah, because we didn't know each other for very long
We
before.
just went on a live.
Yeah, we just started going and got to know each other through that, and all the different conversations we've had, the space that we've been able to hold for each other as we've processed out, and then the challenging questions we've been able to ask each other, the
Mhm.
perspective shifts, the devil's advocate, the just the everything, the transformation of us as human beings, and then us as just we have radically changed our lives when you look at like
Yeah.
lives have been, and then in 3 months how we've changed as people.
It's crazy.
Oh gosh, where are we going to be a year from now? Where are all of our listeners going to be a year from now? Where are you guys going to be?
Yeah, and not even us taking like credit or anything like for where you're doing the work.
Yeah.
Like we are maybe planting the seed, maybe not. Maybe you're just hopping on for the first time now and like you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like that's cool. But like just start to like notice the conversation that you're having and like the intentional conversation that you're having, who you're having them with, and double down, have more of them. Have like the ones that light you up, even if it's not our podcast. We hope it's our podcast, but like even if it's not our podcast, like even if it's your coworker or your best friend or your mom or your sister, if those conversations light you up and they like radically like transform you from the inside out every time you have that conversation, have more of them. Do
Yeah.
it more, make it a thing. Like Steph and I started out as like we became friends because we had the same name. I swear to God, I think I might be slightly narcissistic because I've become friends with people because of the name. But it's okay. We forgive me. Um, but I like we started out as friends because we had the same name. And we just had like one conversation after another. Like it was never really meant to go anywhere. We had like not really much in common,
Mhm.
like other than our names.
Same,
And
exactly.
and the fact that we like to have just like really deep, like introspective conversations. But like if you think about it on the surface, like you're a Canadian girl who like, is going back to living like your great grandma, and I'm like partying all night at clubs in New York City. Like
No,
we
our lives are
legit
so different.
could not be more different if you tried.
Yeah.
And
And
like we just had this connection. We just vibed and like we just kept going deeper and deeper and having these conversations and getting like going off the deep end and going on Zoom dates and like for some reason it just lit us both up and it made no sense logically, but it felt good and every conversation just led to more breakthroughs. So we just kept talking.
yeah, it's like you've definitely been somebody, and I don't know if it's because we've never actually physically met each other and
Hmm.
we're
We'd
not.
be best friends.
Oh, totally. We absolutely would.
We
Uh,
are.
we are. Um, but maybe it's because we're not involved in each other's daily lives and
Maybe.
we are so on opposite sides of the world practically,
Right. Not
That,
really, but okay.
right? Uh, but there's freedom in that. There's also
Yeah,
freedom to be able to have more vulnerable conversations because guess what? It's on the internet. You can just block and delete. If like if
that's
everything goes
true.
south, you can block and delete.
Right.
So we were able to
Please
have,
don't do that to me.
oh, I don't think I ever, so it's fine. Um, we definitely, you gave me a space
Mhm.
have a type of friendship like that to learn how to have more open conversations and to be able to hear conflicting views without having it mean anything about me and being
Right.
able to share my brain and just pour it out and not have anybody take offense to what I was thinking or the way that I was thinking it and trying to explain it. And through that, it's really helped me heal through a lot of the trauma that I've been through. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing. So being able to find someone where you're able to just kind of go to them going, look, I want a no judgment space. I'll be that for you. You be that for me. If anything gets heated or if we take offense to something, like let's show up and like let's just talk about it and at least
Right.
that, because we've done that too, where it's like, oh, I'm triggered by that. Like I'm getting riled. This is why I'm getting, you know, this is why that hurt me or whatever. We've had those conversations.
Right. I
And
mean, just tonight, I was on fire before we hit this record button.
it's true.
Right? Like,
It's true. And we, I think that's so beautiful to have a space to do that, somebody to do that with. And we're creating that space for others to participate in because there's so much growth there.
right.
And we're not taught this stuff. It's very rare to, well, I mean, with the way I grew up, you didn't know who you could talk to. You couldn't have these
No,
conversations
definitely. I mean, yeah.
kind of until social media came. And then it's like, oh, then you find people that are more willing to have conversations, but they're also easier to talk to because you can just block and delete.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you remember, like, I don't know if you remember me when we first started talking, but I was way more closed off, like,
Oh,
on the
yeah.
internet. I was like, I can't say this, I can't say this,
Yeah,
I can't have this opinion, I can't share how I really feel. Like, I was so rigid and just like I was white knuckling social media. I was white knuckling every conversation that I was having, and all of a sudden, even just talking about like that time period, I feel like I have like the lobster claw, like my body is clenching up. I am tense right now, thinking about how tense I was, like whenever I had a conversation, and like that is just not that tension just gone. And I don't know if it, a lot of it has to do with this particular podcast, just like peeling back those layers. Um, but also just our conversations in general and like podcasting in general, like have being giving myself the space to have honest, genuine conversations on a weekly basis, whether recorded or not, with somebody that I trust like so deeply. It's
mhm,
like that in and of itself is like priceless. Like you can't put a price tag on that.
absolutely.
Um,
I mean, our Voxer sessions, our Voxers back and forth.
I really hope nobody ever hears a lot of that shit.
Well, that's where I really love those conversations because sometimes we can just, well, it's just like these conversations where we'll just start talking and we'll go on like this massive spiral tangent thing where it totally will blow your mind and, as you say, pretzel your
Uh-huh.
brain. But it's like we understand each other because I
Yeah,
think a lot of people feel that way where it's like you're trying to work through something and your brain just gets so confused by it. But then there's another person to go, no, hey, I hear this, I see this, like you're on the
right,
right track. Let's do, you know, there's somebody to bounce ideas off of. And
right.
it gives you that whole new integration and awareness of what you're learning.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, like I was thinking one of the things that has really come up for me a lot throughout this particular podcast over the last 3 months is I used to like if I went into the conversation with an intention, right? Like, oh, like I'm going in and we're gonna talk about boundaries. I would get very frustrated with myself about my tendency to like go on a tangent about like fucking chocolate or like hair straighteners or whatever was like whatever random shit came out like that had nothing to do with boundaries. I would get so worked up about the
Mhm.
fact that we weren't talking about like the topic, that like I would just get in my head and it would just make the conversation so like rigid and tense and like not as flowy as it could have been. Through this podcast, I've let go of that need to control the conversation, and not even just in the podcast itself, but like just the way that I communicate in general now. Is I ride those damn tangents and I let them take me to where they're meant to go, because they always bring us back to like wherever we were meant to be in the first place. But instead of fighting it, I just roll with it. Like it's just
Yeah.
we're gonna get there.
And you've helped me with that too, because there's been a couple of times where, you know, we say, okay, this is the topic, like let's talk about this. And then I start going into, okay, so we'll talk about this, and then we'll talk about this, we'll talk about this. And you're like, no, we're just gonna let it roll. And I'm like, like, are you sure?
Yeah,
I want to
it's
hit all
really
the notes. I
hard.
want to make sure.
It's
But you
hard.
taught me too of the beauty in letting go allows you to receive the things that you're meant to and have those nuggets come up and not be so rigid, because it's less about hitting all the check marks and more about enjoying the ride. Like
Yeah,
um the whole, and I don't remember who teaches this way, but like you're floating down a river on a tube and you're just like peacefully going. It's a lazy river type thing, but if you try and swim upstream, if you try and float upstream, you're just creating a whole bunch of resistance. Whereas if you just let yourself flow and enjoy the scenery, enjoy the conversation, enjoy, you know, whatever is there, rather than why don't I have this and why don't I have this and I want to go that way or whatever. Like, no, just chill, let it
right,
be. And we've done episodes where it's okay, let's do a part two, or hey, we talked about this, let's dive deeper into that, you know, in another episode. Like I
right.
just, when you showed me that too, that was like a whole new level of integration and awareness, that then I
Yeah,
went and looked at my own life with that lens going, oh, where are all the little places I'm trying to control right now that I'm feeling
yeah.
that resistance against the stream. Yeah.
Right. And what's crazy is like it's not even like I came in like it's not even like I came in and was like, oh, I'm gonna teach Steph to like let go of control. Like that's a
Right?
lesson like I was trying to learn
Yeah.
and I just let go of trying to learn how to let go. Way to like really make this trippy. But like I it just happened like by accident. I was just like, you know what? Like I love how these conversations are like not following a script. Like you'll see us throughout the episode, like as I'm re-listening, like getting tongue-tied and like getting like flustered and like wait, like oh like that makes sense. Like changing our minds in the middle of the conversation. Like we're
Human.
literally talking through things
Yeah.
with no plan other than we know what the topic is.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just, it's all about being human. And when you have these conversations, just let it be. Be
Right,
that
exactly.
curious. I remember being in a counselor's office years ago, and he talked a lot about just be curious, like ask questions. And I am the queen of asking questions. I freaking love asking questions. But in hard conversations, it's hard to stay open and ask those questions without getting that tension and like trying to defend your point and trying to control somebody else's response or to change their minds or whatever it is. And I think as we go through the rest of these podcast episodes, you know, in the future, and we keep saying we're going to dive into the hot button issues, and we are, folks, we really are. We've
We
got plans.
actually have it on the schedule for
We
like
do.
next week or
We do.
something.
Um, but as we start to go into that, I think these foundational issues, and by all means, everybody go back and listen to them over and over and over and over and over again.
Give us a 5-star review while you're at it.
Favorite, tell us what you learned, share your experiences, and with a friend. Um, as you've integrated, as we start going into the hot button issues, you
Which
can
it's actually happening. We swear. We just let go of the control.
truly, truly it is. But go back and integrate into the awareness What's coming up for you? What are you resisting? And stop looking at what you think the problem is. I think, like, Steph, you just went full circle back to that, where here's the problem, but I actually looked sideways, and that's when it all resolved itself. I am
Yeah.
now going to end this episode and go start examining my life of what I'm still resisting, and like, okay, where can I go sideways on this problem? Life is going to look real good in 24 hours.
I love it. Yeah, but I was like, as you were talking, I was even thinking like, how many times have we said like, oh, we're gonna get into the hot button topics like next time, and then like we just go on another tangent and like it's fine, like it's whatever, it is what it is. Like
Yeah.
we really did let go of the control there of like we knew we were gonna get there eventually, and we are gonna get there eventually. Maybe like in 2 years, but like we'll get there. Just kidding. We really in the next couple of weeks, like for sure. Uh, I know you guys totally believe us. Um,
But it's true. There's a
uh,
lot of foundational stuff to,
there was just more to cover. Like it just had to
yeah,
be talked about.
there's so much more to becoming more human and more open to having those conversations. All of
Right.
the stuff that we've talked about opens you up to have those vulnerable, curious, safe conversations. And the more people we can have those conversations with, the more change we can actually promote, because we are working on ourselves versus trying to control somebody else. And we
Hmm.
are then inspiring and supporting other people who are also wanting to be better at having hard conversations, which then, like, this just a massive ripple effect when you think about it. And then the way that we are living our lives, we then get to expand that to the kids that we raise, or the people we marry, or our friends, or, teaching our parents or our grandparents. Because back in the day, and when I say back in the day, it's like when my parents were kids or teenagers or adults or whatever, they weren't able to talk. You couldn't have an opinion. You couldn't change your mind. You couldn't be who you wanted to be on a variety of levels. So I think this conversation that we're having on this podcast is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. Who knows where anybody will be in a
Oh
year?
no. Oh my God. I'm scared, but like not in a bad way. Like just like
You're
how
excited.
much more growing can I do?
Yeah. As one of my
How
friends.
much further inward can I possibly go? I thought I got all the way there.
Yeah, I thought I did the work. I thought I did the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a woman on Instagram. We'll have to tag her, but she does these awesome skits with the universe. And she did one
Oh, I know what you're
recently.
talking about. You sent me her.
Yes. Paget, I think her name is.
I don't
Um,
remember her name.
anyways, she does these awesome skits with the universe, and it is very much like, I've done the work. What more? Like, I want,
Yeah.
yeah, go watch her stuff.
When we
Go
figure
watch her
out who
stuff.
she is.
Yeah, we'll tag her. Don't worry, it'll be
Yeah.
there. But that is it, the full circle, the full circle. So I
Yeah.
think this has been a really good sort of recap episode of, we didn't really dive too much into the ways that we've grown, but the fact that I think even our listeners, in the conversations that they've been having with us and with each other, there's been a lot of growth and awareness and integration. So keep having these conversations, keep sharing the podcast, share it with your grandparents, share it with your parents. Like, let's just keep, share it with your colleagues. Let's just keep growing the amount of people that we can have conversations with.
Absolutely. And like you'd be amazed once you start having the conversation like with one person, how it opens the door for having better conversations with like everybody in your life. Like so many people have been commenting lately on just the way that I show up,
Mhm.
like the way that I speak, the way that I interact, the way that I engage. And it's like, have I really changed? Like, I guess I have, but like, it just, I've just learned how to like express myself like openly, freely, honestly, like transparently without like telling I'm like going off the deep end now, um, but like I've learned how to just articulate and express myself without having to like be anything different than who I am. You know, like I'm speaking as Steph for the first time ever. Like I am Steph Lappy and like this is just how I talk. Like take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's not
It is
personal.
what it is.
It's
Right.
it it's personal because it's you, but it's not personal. Anything
Yeah.
you say, any reaction, anything like that is not personal. You're not anxious and anticipating and trying to control because you've got those negative feelings of somebody else's opinion or
Right.
confrontation or whatever. It's more, you know who the heck you are. You don't care about anybody else. Well, like you do, but you don't, your self-worth isn't being attacked for having a conversation. It doesn't mean
Right.
else. It's just
Right.
is.
Right. And I think I'm able to be more present and be more just like because I'm being truly genuinely present in the conversation, I'm able to just be myself. Like nothing, no more, no less. Like just me. So I think the more that you have conversations with that one person that makes you feel safe to like just be you and be yourself and speak your mind, you'll find that there's like a ripple effect if you just like with everybody else that you're talking to.
Oh man, I am integrating even more right now of
Integrating
just
live integration.
stuff that happened this last week, a conversation that was had, just integrated more. I'll have to Voxer you that one.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I guess, well, how are you integrating right now? I guess before we sign off, because it's a little cold and late for you to sit outside and eat your breakfast.
Well, I'm probably just gonna go to bed. I'll sleep.
Okay, fair enough.
But just some of the things that are happening where scared. I was scared to have a conversation because it was new, it was uncertain, it was nothing I could control. It was with somebody I didn't really know. And I put but didn't put expectations on it, as in an effort to try and control. And then the conversation that ended up resulting was so different than I thought it was going to be, and ended up being a really fun, awesome, light me up, laughing, super energetic conversation
Oh,
out
I
of
love
left
that.
field.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And just integrating kind of the awareness of how that all connected to on a totally different level, just based on what you said. And now I'm really excited about other conversations along this line that end up getting to happen. So,
Yeah.
oh, I just so uh, there are some people that I need to message, and you're one of them. I will
I'm
be.
honored.
The tea is coming. Sorry for all of you guys. That might be in another episode.
You'll just have to wait and see.
Have to wait and
Um,
see.
but it's like kind of funny. I just want to like point one last thing out. It's like throughout this conversation, we kept saying like, look sideways, like don't focus on the problem. Like you kind of look sideways and all of a sudden that thing just got integrated. Like, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
just had that realization because you weren't even focusing on it.
Yeah. And in this particular conversation, one of the things that shifted things was because I was feeling out of control. And the way that I was feeling out of control was because something wasn't aligned to me. And so I gave myself permission to align it to me. And the second I did that, inner peace, even
I love
though
that.
it was against what a lot of people were telling me, do this, do this, do this. And I'm like, it just
Mhm.
doesn't feel right. And
Right.
as I aligned it to me, I ended up having a much better conversation as a result. And that's like a
Yeah.
whole other awareness that has come.
Oh God, that might need another episode at some point.
Wow.
Here
Mind
we
blowing.
go.
Mind blowing. Okay, well, let's end this episode. It has been a really, really good one, I think.
I think so too. Hopefully you guys can follow.
Okay, well, like us, review us, comment, share, do all the things. You guys know the drill. Let us know how much you love this episode. Shoot us DMs. We love to hear your feedback. Have the conversations with other people in the comments. Let's just do it. Let's just
Oh,
do it
I
up.
love when they do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do all the things. Love it, review it, share it with your grandparents. Play it for everybody at the next family dinner.
Put it on the screen on repeat, whatever you gotta
That's
do.
right. Follow us, like us, love us. We love you guys, and stay tuned for next week's episode, which will be a good one.
It will be a hot button topic.
It,
Dare I
it
say
should be.
it?
It should be.
We're gonna let go of the controls.
That's right. Okay, we love you guys.
Bye bye.